Morning. I hope you had a fun St. Patrick's Day, or you celebrated Purim, or you did something fun with your family last week. And I hope some of my tips were fun for you to try, or maybe you learned something new that you didn't know before. And anyhow, yeah, we celebrated as usual with, I made a stew, and it was one of those days where I was behind. I was ahead of everything else, and then around noon I went, oh my goodness, I haven't cut up the the lamb for my stew, and I was going to have lunch with friends, and I thought, you know what, my family comes before my social time, and so I made sure to cut up that roast, and it was so big, you guys. Like half of it went in the freezer. I diced it so that it was ready for the next stew, and stuck it in the freezer. I did that because I have a lamb shank that I'm going to be cooking a little bit later, and we'll talk about that. I think it's next week. I'll talk about what I'm going to do with my lamb shank that has bone in it. But yeah, yeah, for Easter, that's right. Planning ahead, all that fun stuff. So today's lesson, In Search of the Peaceful Home, we're in week 12, and I really love, love, love this chapter. This took me a long time to discover what that meant to me and what it meant for my family, because it's not always the same agenda. So I want you to think about that. I want you to close your eyes and think about your home, and think, is your home peaceful? And if it's not, what does that look like to you? Maybe there is a spot in your house that's peaceful to you. So visualize what it is about that spot that makes it peaceful for you. And then I want you to think about how you can create that ambiance in the rest of your house. And prayerfully, it matches up with the rest of your family. For me, originally, it was just I wanted a comfortable place, a quiet place to be able to reflect or relax. What I found, though, was my husband wanted a straightened home. That was what brought him peace when he got home from work. So, we have those spots, and I'm not going to show you my office right now because I'm also a seamstress, so I have fabric and stuff that needs to get put away. But as I deal with projects, I usually one day a week straighten all that and take care of it. Well, today's not the day for me to do it, so I'm avoiding it today, trying to ignore it. So how do you picture it? For me, it's become straightened, not just straightened, but things put away. And for me, quiet. So we only have one TV in the house, and it's downstairs, and we don't have a TV anywhere else. And quiet to me, we can still have music, but I have a tendency to go towards more of like Celtic inspired, Celtic worship. Enya is someone I love. I like there to be some light, but more than anything, it needs to be that presence of warmth. There could be a nice chill going through the air, but you still, want to snuggle up with a blanket, and there's that warmth there. So I kind of picture in my head that my space is more of like a cottage in Ireland on a spring day. That's what I visualize. So have you ever had time when you felt your home was not peaceful? And the answer for me is absolutely. I have had those times. It's usually when there's too much going on because I've overbooked myself or I've overbooked my family, and my house isn't together, and so I'm frantically searching for that one thing. And my house is pretty well together, but right now there's one thing that I can't find, and it's very hard for me. It is my grandmother's memorial service on a thumb drive, and I cannot find that thumb drive, and that's very difficult for me that I can't find that, because I can find pretty much anything you need, because most things are put away. Sometimes my home isn't peaceful when I'm not feeling well, and it's just because I don't feel that I can contribute to the family, or maybe there's other people in the house that aren't feeling well, and so you're caregiving for them, and so your priorities are shifted, and so can seem like there's some chaos going on. Or is your to-do list daunting? That's the other thing, is sometimes we live by those to-do lists. I have to-do lists, but I'm okay with moving something to the next day, or discovering whether that's really important in my life. And if it's not important to me, maybe I can delegate it, or maybe it's a task that isn't necessary in my life at all. So you need to figure out what that is for you. I want to encourage you to pray over your home. And, you know, if you're struggling getting to that place where your home is under control so that you can feel at peace there, or your family can feel at peace, and maybe it's that there's so much clutter that needs to be taken care of, or maybe you just need one really good deep cleaning, I encourage you to ask a friend for help. Ask your family. Ask, and you know, if you don't have that help there in your home, ask for help from a friend, a trusted friend who you won't judge for, you know, what's going on there. I want you to think about your senses. You know, what do you see? And for me, like I said, that's I picture my house as a cottage in Ireland on a spring day. That's the feeling I want in my home. Think about the smell. You don't want rotting food smell. So what smells do you want? Do you want air freshener in your areas? Do you want candles? For me, it's just, as long as it doesn't stink, I'm good. But I will run an air purifier with essential oils in it, and so I'll change that up. I have a tendency to go towards floral or citrus, so to me that's really nice, and I can leave that room and not worry about it, whereas if I left candles going, it's a different story. Think about what you're hearing in there. If you want that peaceful, quiet atmosphere, if you want music playing, and it doesn't have to be all the time, it's just, you know, when you're in that space and you're wanting to focus on something. I put taste in my list as well, because of course that's a sense, and it's one of those things where I think of maybe your home needs that smell of cinnamon rolls, and so there becomes that taste element. It's a comfortable feeling, so maybe that smell and that taste become one and the same. And for me, touch was really important, the different textures of the fabrics and stuff. And it's really interesting because children, of course, are very visual and they touch everything, and so those things that are tempted to be touched are okay to be touched by little hands. And you know, sometimes the clutter is peaceful for you, and that's a perspective that not everybody understands. It's so important that you think about that stuff. And she puts, for instance, cleats in the middle of the room. And not that they belong there all the time, but if they are there, she's praying and thanking God that she has healthy bodies running in her home. And I love that. You know, books out of place, but thankful that your kid loves to read, just things like that. So make sure you keep those things in perspective. My mother-in-law keeps a pair of shoes by my back door, and originally I was irritated by that, but they're her garden shoes, and when she comes over to visit, we have a garden for her. We'll talk about gardens later. I'm not a green thumb, so that's an interesting one for me to delve into. But think about, well, she still has the ability to go down my deck stairs and work in the garden. To me, that's a blessing. So I've found a place for those shoes so that it doesn't overwhelm me. My husband has shoes out in the garage, and he leaves a pair of shoes by his mom's. And so we've just kind of worked together that this is where they're at so that they're out of the way so no one can trip on them. And I'm thankful that my husband chooses a different pair of shoes to work out in the yard, because then he doesn't bring in dog poo that he's stepped in, or dirt or things of that nature. He changes his shoes. So we have a designated place in the garage So think about those types of things. Like if that's where your family wants to keep those items, what can you do so that you could appreciate that you have healthy bodies in your home, that your husband can still go out and do the yard work and that he enjoys doing it, and when that's not your kind of thing. So I think about those things a lot. I want to encourage you to come back next week. For week 13 and 14, it is on Easter, and I'm going to actually combine both of those into one week so that you guys have stuff for Easter. Blessings to you, and I will see you next Sunday.